Hey team, how to improve distance running form is often asked, and there are many ways to improve your form. One of the most important things you want to keep in mind, especially when you're trying to improve biomechanics, is patience. Okay, sometimes runners run better by not trying to change anything. The fitter you get, your form will definitely improve as you become more anaerobically and as well as aerobically fit. When you're just starting off in a training block, it's very hard to run at faster paces, and you'll definitely notice your body breaking down and your form breaking down earlier on. But as you get fitter, you're going to be able to sustain faster paces, and you're not going to become quite as tense and stressed out in the fitter you get. But as you focus on form, definitely the types of workouts that will help you improve your form is VO2 max workouts. The things that helped me out over the years was those track workouts, hill repetitions where you're running up a 150 meter hill to 300 meter hill, and where you're forced to pump your arms more, lift your knees more, and consciously tell yourself to stay calm, stay in control. Even this past weekend, I watched my nephew race in the 5,000, the mile, the 3K, and the DMR. And one of the things I was noticing with him is his pain tolerance is very, very high. And not only him, but the athletes that he was competing against that narrowly beat him in his races by just a few seconds. These athletes have pushed themselves so hard in training so often that their form doesn't break down as easily versus somebody that's just starting off in a build-up. Okay, so it's very important as you think about how to improve running form. Just be patient with yourself. Know that the more workouts you do, the more races that you do, the longer you run. What I always think about as you're preparing for your races, not just running at faster paces, but running for longer periods of time will also help your running form, because again, you're teaching your body to burn fat. You're also teaching the body to improve its lactate tolerance, so that the stress and the breakdown physiologically of your body, but also of your overall form as you're running at faster paces, will minimize the faster you train. And every workout, whether it's a bad workout, or every race, whether it's a bad race or a great race, or a bad race or a bad workout or a great workout, each one of these training stimulus, whether it comes from a race or from a workout, each workout and each race builds upon itself. So don't get bent out of shape when you don't quite hit the paces that you're aiming for in training or in a race. Know that every time you get out the door, the more consistent you are with your training, the better your form's going to be. Okay, you're running at paces, like I mentioned, when training for longer periods of time at your anaerobic threshold, or doing those track workouts where you're running at VO2 max effort, where you're running at paces so fast that you're and producing so much lactic acid that you can't clear it faster than it's building up. All these types of training intensities will help you eventually with your form. And this takes time. It does take about 3 weeks to 4 weeks for the body to adapt to any stress load being placed on it. So that is very important to keep in mind. And also notice how you're feeling in training. In terms of how to improve running form, consciously, when you notice your shoulders rising, or when you notice your face tensing up as you're running in your workouts, consciously and remind yourself to stay calm, to relax. Look at the top, middle to long distance runners. Look at athletes like Usain Bolt, Noah Lyles in the sprints, Jakob Ingebrigtsen or Josh Kerr in the long distance races, or Americans like Cole Hawker and Grant Fisher, the American record holder for several events. These athletes, their form doesn't break down in the race. And if they are breaking down in the race, it's usually around the last 50 meters of a 10,000 or the last 200 meters of a mile. They're able to sustain their form for longer periods of time because, again, they have done the quality work. Okay, they've done hill repetitions. They have done very hard 400 meters on the track, running at their 1 mile to 3K race pace. If they're training for like the 5K and the marathon distances, they're training at paces that are significantly faster than their goal race pace. Okay, and that is also when you're running for long periods of time. If you're training for like a 10 miler, 32K, or you're training for a 25K or a half marathon or marathon, to maintain your form for longer periods of time and improve on your form, it's not just about running for at very fast paces. It's also about running for very long periods of time. If you're training for a 10K, think about how much stronger you're going to be in a 10K in terms of your form and maintaining your form if you've done long runs of, say, 15 miles to 18 miles, okay, up to 3 times the distance of the goal distance you're aiming for. Say if you're training for a 10K, how much easier is a 10K race going to feel, and how much stronger in terms of your overall form are you going to be if you've tripled the distance of, or even doubled or tripled the distance of your doing your long runs at doing double to triple the distance of your race. So it's also about, in terms of improving form, running for long periods of time, running at very fast efforts as well, running up hills, running over hillier terrain where you're forced to pump your arms more. You're forced to teach yourself to stay in control, stay relaxed at faster paces, but also over different terrain. So that's also something you want to definitely keep in mind in terms of how to improve your running form. This is something that doesn't happen overnight, so definitely make sure that you have a long-term approach here. If you're trying to cram all of your training in a short amount of time, it's very hard to improve running form. But if you're thinking long-term, if you're doing a longer build-up, if you're training for a 10 mile or a half marathon or marathon, I always say 16 weeks minimum, but start thinking 20 to 24 weeks a build-up if you're training for one of those longer races. That's going to help improve your form because, again, you're training for a longer period of time. You're not stressing your physiologically, you're not stressing yourself, but you're also not stressing yourself mentally because you're giving yourself more time to prepare, more time to adapt, versus if you're trying to jump in an 8-week block of training or a 12-week training block and you're training for, say, a 10 miler or a half marathon or marathon. That's much more difficult to get in phenomenal shape in a short amount of time versus a longer period of time. Hope that makes sense. Strength training, without a doubt, is very important in improving your form. Focusing on explosive activities, explosive type, not only doing strides that I talk about, 2 to 3 times a week, doing 3 to 5 to 6 100-meter strides. Doing that consistently 2 to 3 times a week will also improve your overall running form because, again, you're working on leg turnover, you're working on pumping your arms, your knee drive, and focusing on your overall fitness and your overall form. Doing strides, like I mentioned before in other videos, doing strides, you're running at near sprint paces. And as you do that over a 16 to 24 week block of training, you will have run several miles, several kilometers at sprint paces on top of all the other track workouts, long runs, road workouts that you're doing. And so strides is definitely another it's another benefit is another way for you to improve your form over a long period of time. Remember, form will definitely improve as you become more aerobically and anaerobically fit. So be patient with yourself. Don't be in a rush with your training. The last thing to keep in mind, definitely, as I mentioned before, is strength training. Okay, box jumps, any type of, you're working on your core muscles, medicine ball drills, sled drills, where if you have the ability to have a weighted sled, put it like a 45-pound plate on the back of a sled and tie the band around your waist and focus on sprints with a sled with weights on the back. Okay, parachutes. You can get parachutes on Amazon, even weighted sleds on Amazon as well. I'll leave the links below for those particular tools below this video. Definitely check those out. Parachutes, again, wind resistance. Training pool running. Okay, I talk about in other videos, if you want to, instead of doing a track workout or instead of doing a tempo run, get in the deep end of a pool and wear a flotation device if you want to make it much easier. If you're trying to do a much harder workout in the place of a track session, get in the deep end of the pool and do pool running without the flotation device. That is going to force you to focus on your form. You're going to be pumping your arms, you're going to be pumping your legs to stay above the water. Whereas if you're wearing a flotation device, it's much easier to stay above the water. You don't have to pump your arms or really focus on your form as much as you do if you are not wearing a flotation device. So pool running, cross training, stair climbing, hill repetitions, track workouts where you're running at VO2 max effort, those are really where you're going to get the highest dividends for your hard work in terms of improving your body's overall form. And like I mentioned before, it's not just about fast running. It's not just about doing hill repetitions. It's also about running for long periods of time where you're teaching the body to burn fat more efficiently and improve your body's lactate tolerance. But also, like I mentioned before, even if you're running at slow paces, sometimes we can tense up. So consciously tell yourself to relax even at slower paces. If you feel yourself tensing up or you feel your face tensing up during a long run, even if you're running at much lower paces and you're not accumulating as much lactic acid, but most certainly when you're running at faster paces, when you're doing those repeat miles on the track or repeat kilometers on the roads or on the track, and you feel yourself tensing up, consciously tell yourself to relax, okay? And again, think back to the top runners that you know or you've seen on TV. Remind yourself of how relaxed these athletes are, okay? And how they don't break down in terms of their form until sometimes they don't break down at all. They're hurting. If you look at a guy like Yared Nuguse, the American record holder for the mile indoors and outdoors, 343 miler outdoors, 347 miler indoors. His form really doesn't break down. Obviously, you see the pain on his face in the last 50 meters of a race, but his form overall does not break down. And that comes with time, it comes with age, it comes with consistent training over a long period of time. So know that form definitely will improve as you get fitter and as you become more consistent and more motivated with your training. Okay, and this is not, again, it's not an overnight process. Just be consistent with your training, and I promise you, your form will improve, your ability to clear lactic acid more effectively will improve, your pain tolerance will be enhanced. The fitter you get, the more consistent you are, and the more motivated and driven you are. So I hope this video is helpful for you in terms of just thinking of some things you need to be thinking about to improve your overall running form and how to break down less and how to sustain and maintain your form throughout the race for a longer period of time and to be more successful at it. So I hope this is helpful for you. Definitely check out the resources below. And like I mentioned, there will be, I'll leave the links to the parachutes and also to weighted sleds if that's something you want to invest in. And also, if you're looking for a training plan, running coaching, a running course, definitely check out the resources below these videos, as well as our brand new coffee brand. And if you love coffee, definitely check out RunDreamAchieve Coffee. So I wish you guys and gals all the very best, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.